Welcome to yet another episode of KTM Summer Grill. My name is Simon Chapman, Supercars reporter for speedcafe.com, and today I'm joined by Connor O'Brien and none other than Nick Percat in studio to have a chat about the Supercars silly season. Thanks for joining us, Nick.
Oh, no worries. It's a beautiful day to go for a drive up to Norway here, so it's good.
For sure. Well, today we're going to talk about 2021 and the silly season, how it sort of played out, and obviously, Nick, you played a big part in that with your departure from Brad Jones Racing and your signing to Walkinshaw Andretti United. You must be super excited for 2022.
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of was like, if everyone thought it was random, I thought it was nearly random too, the way it all unfolded. So yeah, super excited. Obviously, I love the way that I finished with Brad and everyone at BJR. I think what we maximised at Bathurst and the championship was good. And then, yeah, obviously that car of Chaz's and Bryce were pretty fast at Bathurst, and I spent the last 2 stints trying to get past Bryce, and I'm like, look forward to being in that number 2. So, yeah, well, at Bathurst anyway, so they look pretty quick. So, yeah, definitely exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
And that number 2 has, I guess, special meaning for you from 10 years ago?
Yeah, 100%. I ran number 2 in a Formula Ford with Sonic when we won that championship, and then obviously I couldn't use 2 in Super 2 back then, so it became Triple 2 to go with the fleet that they had there at the time at Walkinshaw. So it was, it's pretty cool to finally have just my name on car 2. It feels like a long time in the making, and here we go next year and see how it rolls. But it's cool looking back at all the cars I've driven, and quite often they had number 2 on them.
For you, I guess, like having been like at Brad's, being like with no disrespect, a perennial like sort of midfield team punching above their weight, that sort of thing. Like, what's it feeling like coming into a team that's probably more hyped than ever? Well, certainly in this period of time where everyone's like, sweet, they're Bathurst champions.
It was cool to see how much it meant to them, and I think even the fan base and everyone appreciated that, the HRT car or the Walkinshaw Andretti car has got to win up at Bathurst again. So yeah, for me, it's, I guess, a different mindset. Don't get me wrong, I loved what we did at Brad's and trying to beat the bigger teams as nearly the underdog. But what Brad has there is quite a big team, and they're pushing very hard. But for me, being back in a 2-car team alongside someone like Chaz, with some owners there that all they want to do is win. You look at the Andretti and Zach, and then obviously the Walkinshaw family. It's just all we want to do is win, and the whole story or the criteria of getting me on board was, we're here to win, we're serious. So that's why we want you back.
Sure. Were they pretty eager to get you on board when, because it was sort of chat around the mid-season? Obviously you'd made a bit of a commit to BJR, but it sounded like, for all intents and purposes, Walkinshaw were super keen to have you on board.
Yeah, we've had some loose chats throughout the pit lane, or whatever, just asking where my contracts will be at, and it never really fell with the same timings, because I was always actually at a sync. And then I'm not sure when that whole COVID thing happened and we weren't going away racing, and I just woke up and said, you know what, I'm just going to, like I've said, I want to change. My dad and everyone around me was like, you are putting your balls on the line. Like, obviously Brad was very good to me, and there was probably a seat there for as long as I wanted it. So then to pick up the phone, because I couldn't even go see him, which made it even harder, and sit down face to face and explain why I had to try and do it over the phone was probably the hardest phone call I've ever made. But yeah, it was just something in my head went, you know what? I'm always, every category I've done is we go there to win. And just for whatever reason, I felt like I couldn't quite bridge that gap to the 888s or the Shell cars, and found an opportunity and went with it.
Sure. And I suppose your move was one of several in 2021. We'll go through them now. I guess sort of this could take forever, but we certainly started things off quite early with the news of 888 and the movements around there with ownership. Tony Quinn obviously stepping up to take the lion's share of the ownership there. Roland Dane sort of stepping back a little bit. Jamie and Jess taking their shares up. Later in the year, we found out that Jamie's replacement will be Brock Feeney, and there was a myriad of sort of changes in between all that. We can go through them, like obviously Tickford bringing Thomas Randall in, which we've been waiting for a long time.
Yep. That of course happened, I think, around Townsville time when they got awarded the 4th direct.
Mm-hmm.
But there was about a 7-month gap between Jamie announcing his impending retirement and Brock getting announced as his replacement. So all sorts of names got thrown into the mix, and Brock's was the one that kept popping up as everyone one by one sort of, kind of fell out of the race. So I think Brock was always probably the chosen one, but yeah, there was a long time, and it probably wasn't until I think at least winter that it started to become clear that, okay, Brock's probably going to be the guy, right?
Yeah, I thought when he rocked up in Super 2 with the Red Bull livery, 888 on the window, all their sponsors, it was pretty clear. But I think he had to do a good job in Super 2 to make sure he cemented it.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. He's done exceptionally well in his second season of Super 2. Obviously, he had that first season with Tickford, but this year was truly dominant for him.
Thomas, obviously you co-drove with him last year, I think, at Bathurst.
Didn't get to do much driving, unfortunately.
No, unfortunately not, but I mean, you have obviously seen a bit of him up close, and he seems like a great character and someone who I'm sure won't be out of his depth.
Nah, 100%. Old Randall, he can steer. He's quite good. I've known him for a long time now, and one of my best friends in Melbourne is literally best friends with Tommy, and I've kind of watched him from just knowing about him back in karting through a friend of mine, and then as he's got going, and then when he drove my car last year at Bathurst and the test days, it was nice to have someone sit in it and not change much and produce a lap time and have really similar feedback. So we've seen him go well in the wild cards when he just rocks up and throws it down the inside of Anton at Darwin and stuff. So that's
probably overtaking the season.
That kind of stuff is what I'm looking forward to when you have a young guy who has good pedigree behind him and understands racing and not crashing. He's just come in and put a move on someone who was expected to be winning races and didn't touch him and didn't do anything. That's what I'm looking forward to racing against Tom, because he's a very good driver and he's done a lot behind the scenes.
Definitely, and obviously at Tickford still a little bit of movement there too, with obviously Jack LeBrock and Jake Kosticki essentially doing a straight swap with Jack going to Matt Stone Racing and Jake coming across to Tickford. That's an interesting sort of interesting one, how that played out.
That kind of took, I'm not sure about you, Nick, but I mean certainly the Jake part of that sort of took a lot of people by surprise. I had Jake penciled in to go around at MSR again, and then that sort of all came out pretty quickly. And then, I think obviously Jack seemed to be a little bit on the outer for a while there, and he'll obviously pick up his career again at MSR, where they'll have Todd Hazelwood, your old teammate. So, but the Jake element, I actually think I was a little bit surprised by him this year. Like, he was quite quick at times. Still has to put a couple of things together, but I mean, obviously once you go to Tickford, there's nowhere to hide. So,
literally, I didn't see that coming. When I saw that unfolding, I'm like, what has happened here? But honestly, it's good for him to have a crack, and it's one of those things, put yourself in that position, and I guess in 2 years' time, if you're not getting results, you can probably sit back and say, I've tried.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously you mentioned BJR, obviously Todd Hazelwood and yourself obviously leaving that team and obviously filling in that void, Andre Heimgartner and the guy that you're replacing and Bryce Forward. And I think you'd probably pick those two as a pretty solid lineup at that organisation. I think if someone's going to drive your old car, Andre's probably a pretty good pick.
Yeah, I would think so. When my first chat with Brad was like, just do a straight swap with me and Bryce, like put him straight in. He's a young guy I think he can drive. He's very, very talented and probably just needs a little bit of guidance and nurturing and probably away from a team with a lot of pressure around, where that's the great thing with BJR. It's a very low pressure. The guys and girls there are passionate, want to win, but it doesn't, I know there's an element there that from when I've been at other teams, it doesn't have Brad's not beaming down on you to, if it's not going 100% correct, he probably gives you a bit more of a cuddle and make sure you get the best out of the drivers. So I think, Bryce will be good there. And then Andre, he's got runs on the board. He anytime it rains, that guy disappears out of nowhere, and he's always there. So I think, hopefully, I feel like they feel like they're going to a team and that's been left in good stead, and he'll plug himself in. I assume car 8. I think he's in the R&J car, and get on with it. But I guess the only big thing there is not having AE, who the engineering group is very good there with Tony and Milo and everyone, but it's I think AE was a very important part of that place for a very, very long time. So I think that's the only thing I didn't see coming was what happens now. And obviously at the loop now, so I don't know who they're getting, but that'll be the only interesting thing.
I'll come back to AE in a sec. I was going to say, but yeah, with Andre, I mean, he's matched up really well against guys like Rick and Dave, but yeah, it's going to be a good chance for him to lead a team. Again, sort of nowhere to hide. He's got to go out and be the guy now. But and him and Bryce get along really well. We used to live together, and so it should be a good dynamic there. But really interesting to see what. Again, Andre leaving Groves was a big shock at the time. Maybe not to you, I'm not sure. But
didn't know that was happening.
But that was one of many shocks. Where we were thinking, it's all given that he's going to go around again at Groves.
Well, it certainly felt like that for a long time, that Andre would stick around because, new ownership group, more investment, he'd been given a brand new chassis. It's not like things weren't rosy at Grove Racing. So, it was a little bit of a surprise when Andre came out and said, oh, no, actually, not re-signing. I'm going to go to Brad's joint now. And quite possibly one of the best stories to come out of all of this is Lee Holdsworth getting a drive back in full time. And it's sort of been a little bit of a messy journey to here, because for a long time we were expecting Matt Payne to sort of get the nod. He was sort of provisionally in there, but unfortunately it seems, at least at face value, that the super license thing hasn't played out the way they would have liked to, and Groves have just jumped on Holdsworth while they can.
I think though, probably Stephen would probably say himself though that they probably can see as well that he's got the raw talents absolutely there. But I would have thought Stephen probably as well would have gone, look, maybe not just yet.
Why rush it, mate?
And Super 2, incredible pace straight out of the gate, but obviously a couple of incidents, and he's only 19. What's one more you're going to do?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and obviously one of the casualties of this year was unfortunately Zane Goddard. We don't quite know where he's going to sort of end up, which is, it's a bit of a shame. It sort of feels a little bit like James Golding in some ways. He's had a couple of years in the championship where he's shown some real glimpses of pace and ability, and it's just not played out the way he would have liked.
Yeah, I was probably a little bit surprised to see him not get a seat anywhere. I think it's hard to know until you know what Matt's doing at MSR is amazing with the young drivers and what he did with that program to have two guys like that in there. But it would have been nice to see Zane land himself in a different team if it played out that way. And I think he's done a really good job this year, or they both did at MSR. So I think for him he'd probably feel a little bit ripped off. And I'd say he's in the top 10 shootout at Townsville, wasn't it? And Darwin, he's to land the car in a top 10 shootout is one of the harder things to do besides putting a race together. So I would have thought, hopefully this time next year when everyone's on their silly season again, that he can kind of land himself back in when it's Gen 3.
Yeah, I think really important for him to make sure it's no more than 1 year. Once you go more than 1 year, as we have seen with James Golding, it can be quite hard to get back in. So hopefully, I feel like he's a really talented kid, and he probably as well. A few teams opted for experience over youth, so he's missed out for now. But pretty easy going guy, pretty good for sponsors and all that sort of stuff. So hopefully it all does come together.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's pretty much everything on the driver's side. But there was still plenty of movement behind the scenes as well. Obviously, we sort of touched on it a little bit earlier. The Kelly family stepping away from Supercars and sort of, I guess, relinquishing the reins to the Grove family, who have taken basically 100% ownership of that operation. Kelly's have still got a little bit of involvement with some of the technical stuff in the background, but it's a real changing of the guard at that joint.
Yeah, well, have you had much to do with the Kellys over? I mean, obviously you all have been around for a long time, but I mean, not trying to say you're old, but
you're crazy. So.
But look, I mean, family team, a bit like Brad's in some ways, but I mean, a shame to not have the Kellys here anymore.
Yeah, 100%. I've actually had a lot more to do with them than anyone really realised, because when I was 2007 with Walkinshaw, racing in the Formula Ford, John Kelly was actually involved in getting me into that team when it was HSV dealer team and HRT, and he might correct me, but I'm fairly sure he was part of the he was contributing financially to help make sure we could race the Australian Formula Ford Championship along with the with the Walkinshaws. So I've had a lot to do with them and been very close to driving for their team a few times. Had a few chats with Todd, and it's gonna be weird not seeing them around the traps. And even this year, not having Rick in pit lane, it felt really weird because he brings like a lot of fun to pit lane as a friend and another driver, and he was always amazing to race. And it was just a little bit weird not having him there. And then obviously we've watched Todd building these engines on the side of the road and stuff for the last 18 months and getting that whole program going. It is crazy to think that now he isn't going to be rocking up at round one.
For sure. You mentioned it earlier, AE joining Triple Eight alongside Shane Van Gisbergen. One of a couple of changes in Triple Eight there, obviously Martin Short stepping up to Supercars with Brock Feeney, and outgoing David Couchy and Wes McDougall. Wes obviously taking a bit of time out from the sport while Couchy's moving into a more senior role at Grove Racing as the team principal. How's AE going to go at Triple Eight? When I spoke to Roland last, he said it was about unleashing him, and really giving him all the tools that he needs to, I guess, take Shane to that next level.
Well, I think Shane's already at a pretty good level.
That's scary. You can go another level.
And the team is obviously at a very good level. There's obviously a little bit of pressure on AE stepping in there with Shane going to defend his championship. But I think when your playbook's about this big of how to set this car up, I think he'll be fine. I know what he's capable of, and it'll be good for him to get there, and I know the exact questions he's going to ask of the car, and it'd be how the hell do you get loaded driving a supercar and a few other bits and pieces. And I feel like they're going to have 90% of the answers for him and the tools there. So it'll be cool to see him grow and have people, I guess, some engineers above him, that he can lean on as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes. Hopefully we can annoy him. I know his tricks, I know his race strategies, but he knows my strengths too. So it'll be good. Hopefully we can annoy him during the year and take some wins off him. But it's pretty cool. He's moving the whole family up. He's fully in with Triple Eight. So we'll have to watch, see if he likes the humidity in summer and all that. But he'll be good.
You said 18 odd years at BJR, wasn't it for him? Something like that.
That or more. It was a very, very long time. So that's why I thought that was the only thing for Brad and the engineering group there to lose someone like that. They sort of Paul Scalzo, who's an unbelievable engineer as well. So I think I think Tony, who was Todd's engineer or car 40 engineer, he'll be working pretty close with Scales now to fill that void until they have someone.
Important question I got to ask for you: have you made any deals with Zach Brown yet? We hear this all the time with Ricardo, O'Ward, even Chaz.
No, there's just deals going everywhere.
So what car are you going to drive if
I gave Chaz a little bit of shit. I'm like, mate, out of every car you could have picked in that guy's garage. But it's pretty cool. Well, he's already mentioned about driving the Bathurst winner, if we can get over there and do it, which would be really cool. And I think, if you could, seems like everyone's inviting a mate, so I guess I'd take Garth with me if Chaz is going to take him off. So I don't know. I'd love to drive a cool open wheeler, but I think I just need to make sure I can crawl first before I worry about how I'm going to win a race for them and then tell him what car I'm driving.
Ben, look, as you and I have spoken about, it is important to be realistic in those first few rounds. It's pretty hard to go to a new team and straight away bang it on pole. So obviously that's what you want to be doing, but like you say, you have to build up to it a little bit. So
100%. You look at the car Anton stepped into this year. It barely lost a race, and very rarely was off the front row or ever. And he's only finished 6th in the championship. So I don't think it matters which one you're stepping into. When you're coming from a different team with a different philosophy and you step into it, it doesn't happen straight away. So I think I'm old enough and been around long enough now to know that I'm not going to expect to go to Newcastle round one and maximum risk track. I just want to learn the car and team as fast as I can and do it sensibly and the goal for that team is, I'm sure Chaz is win the championship next year, and as a team, it's win the team's championship. So, my contribution for the first 3 months is going to be making sure I'm scoring maximum points, obviously trying to win, but doing it in a sensible manner. And it'll be interesting to see what the car's like. When Shane arrived at Triple Eight, it wasn't like he was coming from a different brand of car or team's car. He came from Techno with huge support in there from Triple Eight, and he would have just taken his seat insert, slotted it in, and it would have felt the same. So I imagine what we watched Anton do this year, where there was probably quite fast, but some mistakes and had to get into gel with it all. I expect something similar, and I'm just looking forward to it. They've got a good team down there, and I've had enough dialogue in the last week since Bathurst to understand where they're at, and looking forward to get there in January.
Definitely. Do you look at Anton's first year at DJR and go, and maybe take some learnings from that and say, okay, this is what I don't want to do in some ways. Obviously by the end of the year, he was in a really strong position, but the start, there were a few mistakes, not just from Anton, but from the team as well. So do you sort of look at it like that and say, okay, it's about minimizing mistakes more than anything? Yeah,
100%. And I think, Anton's still at that age where a bit younger than me, and it's just flat out and, go for glory every lap, where I think, for me, it's probably a bit more of a calculated approach. And like I said, when I sat down with Ryan and Bruce, and the whole objective is team's championship next year, we want to win that one. So, if I have to make sure I get it right and take a little bit of time with it and finish fifth and finish rather than sliding it down the fence, that's what you have to do. So, but for me, that probably suits the way I go about it in the last few years anyway. That's how I've got the results for BJR as well. So I think, minimise the risk and stuff in Newcastle and hopefully get some good results, because traditionally I would say a WAU car at a street track's pretty handy too.
We'll go back to where we started this chat, and this will be my last question. Chaz winning Bathurst with Lee is obviously a big thing for Walkinshaw. We've seen with Shane at the back end of 2020, that sort of really kicked off the momentum into the following year as championship year. Do you sort of look at what Walkinshaw have done this year and the momentum that they're building and go, I'm extremely excited for what's potentially to come in 2022?
It's you'd be lying if you said you weren't excited. Because I guess, I knew when my deal was done quite a while ago, and you start watching more and more of what they're doing, and kind of, I guess when you've been around enough, you kind of understand exactly what they're doing. Even Sydney Motorsport Park, I didn't even have to ask a question, but I could see that they were trying a lot of different things, and I followed Chaz pretty much at some point every weekend, and I could see the way the car was doing things differently to it was the day before or the weekend before, and I saw how fast it was at the test day with our timing that everyone had there, and I thought, hold on, this thing's coming alive. And then when it did lap one at Bathurst, I think the whole of pit lane went, hold on a second, that's 4/10 clear of the field. So I'm excited to go to Bathurst. But you can see there's the feel there, and I don't know, I feel like you can see when something's brewing, and that was the goal for me. It was to try and crystal ball Gen 3 a bit, but if that's come a bit early, I'll be even happier. So I'm just excited to get back there, and Ryan and Martine and everyone on the Walkinshaw side of things have been so good and appreciative that we've, I've had to do some pretty big things, and Brad's been very cooperative to make it happen as well, and here we are. I've put myself on the line and say, what if it doesn't happen in the next 3 years? I've had a crack. I've gone to the big team, and we'll see how we go.
I've got one more.
All right.
I can't let you get away with that. Asking the semi-controversial one, that when you have the two A-grade drivers, like even Jamie and Shane at Sydney Motorsport Park, or previously Garth and JC back in the HRT days, how do you manage that if you're both fighting for race wins and potentially a championship or anything like that?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I haven't actually had to think about that since Formula Ford, because it's like when you're putting a championship together, you obviously want to beat your teammate. But it was funny when we were waiting to get back into Queensland, and all the Queenslanders were there at Kingscliff or wherever we were. It was, I had lunch and stuff with Chaz and dinners, and he's like, it is funny that we're sitting here now after your Formula Ford days and Super 2 and the rivalry when he was at Tickford that naturally brewed up to be bigger. we went from Formula Ford, and it was me at Sonic and Chaz at Synergy, and they were always at war for the championships. And then Walkinshaw and Tickford and Super 2, and it got bigger. And then, it's he did laugh, and he's like, the funny thing is that we're actually just very similar. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes, but at the moment, it's all pretty easy to sit back and say, we'll be fine. But, for the last 4 years, I can't remember a bad run-in that I've had with him. Actually, he had me off at Darwin last year. He did, but, I'm looking forward to the challenge of going up against someone like him. Everyone knows how his raw speed is crazy fast, and probably should have nearly won that championship the year he had the big crash at Bathurst. And, I'm looking forward to it. And I guess that's up to Bruce. If it ever gets a bit weird, he can pull us in. But no, I think the big thing that nearly won me over was when I was there, even as I never led the team or anything like that, but I understood the culture of the place, and I now look at it and it's so far different to what it was. They're a lot more welcoming to just sponsors, family, everything. And I've been watching how it's unfolding, and I'm looking forward to how it goes, because it is a lot different to when it was JC and Garth, Holden Racing Team, I guess trying to be King Dick between the two of them as the Holden factory driver. So, it is a lot different to what it was then, but look at Shane and Jamie. when Jamie decided it's his team and he's not letting him through, that's what happened.
For sure. Well, we cannot wait until March 4 to 6 on the streets of Newcastle when the season gets back underway, the 2022 Ripco Supercars Championship. This has been a great episode of KTM Summer Grill. Thanks, Nick, for coming on board, and Connor for lending some of your Supercars expertise as well. Stay tuned to speedcafe.com for the next episode. As part of this year's KTM Summer Grill, each week KTM is giving away the perfect summer beach pack, which includes an umbrella, cap, gym bag and key holder. To enter the draw, head to speedcafe.com or hit the link in the description below.